Hi, and welcome to Night Cleric Radio. In this episode, we're going to be talking about Cryo Chamber's latest yearly Cthulhu Mythos album, collaboration album, Hastur. We're only doing one album this episode, mainly because it's such a long album. It is over 2 hours, 20 minutes altogether. It's a double album. It's a double album. Over 20 artists contributed to it. And also, we're doing it because we have a very special guest today, Caleb Stokes of Hebadon Games and the Mix 6 and Role Playing Public Radio.
Well, hello. I didn't know we were wearing our NPR voices today.
Yeah.
No, this is a professional production.
Nice.
Night Cleric Radio is a little more chill
Yes.
than
Extravagant, decadent sounds.
yeah, exactly.
Yes.
We are also, making use of my new mic preamp, the Cloud Lifter.
Nice.
Yeah.
It sounds like a vape rig.
I mean,
Like a sweet ass.
the name was a really strong thing for me to get it.
Or like a bong.
Yeah.
Oh, no. It's a jewel.
It's definitely
It's a jewel. Bro.
Yeah.
So Cryo Chamber, who we've previously talked about with Miles to Midnight, another collaboration album. But every year, for the last 6 years, they have released an album thematically focused on the Cthulhu mythos, and each album is named after one of the various great old ones or elder gods. The first one, of course, was Cthulhu. They've done like Nyarlathotep, Azathoth, Shub-Niggurath. That there's 6 of them.
Nodens was just a weird she-shanty. We never thought you could do 4 hours of that.
God, if they did a Nodin/Lighthouse themed album, I would be there for it. Yeah, just throwing some she-shanties are a little not ambient enough for them though. So I don't know if singing is really part of their.
Maybe if you just heard wails of it like in the background.
Oh yeah, whales
as like
space
waves
whales.
crashed. You were like listening to it from the shore as a boat passed in some sort of large
Or just
echoey
whales singing she-shanties.
cave.
When I saw the album they released back, in December, 2019, Hastur, I was like, I'm definitely going to listen to this.
Perfect.
Then, of course, Burke is here. He is visiting in real life, in the meat, in the flesh.
The rare flesh space.
Yeah.
Non-Discord.
We usually record online. So we had to record an episode of Night Cleric Radio while
The
Burke
album
was here.
transported him here.
Yeah.
Time and distance fell away.
Yeah, it might have.
That's what it feels like coming here.
And you've been interested in weird music too. So Burke and I had to spend some time figuring out what to do as an episode. So we talked about doing like maybe everybody doing a topic, but that would be, or an album, but that would be too long. Doing a topic or, 3 topics. And then we finally was like, wait, what if we just do an an extra long album and with a bunch of different artists. And Hastur is very thematic for you. Mm-hmm. You're really fond of it at this point.
Yes. Well, I mean, I didn't know how seriously you guys took it. I listen to dark ambient and like synthwave and all that kind of stuff while I write and work. So I've listened to things like this, like while I've, written like Delta Green and Cthulhu stuff. But you were just like taking notes and like talking about orchestral arrangements and shit. And I was just like, okay, I'm not going to do any of that because that's work. But like, what can I do? And I can just listen to it over and over again in a variety of locales.
Yeah.
And so that's what I did. I sort of built my own soundscapes with this album. It's been a weird 2 weeks.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess we should start with overall impressions. But Burke,
I liked it. Yeah. It's just so varied. I guess making it kind of one track, because the way it's structured, we talked about is it's like one track per side, right?
I mean, it really is an album. They just don't label the tracks. They mix them all in there, but you can tell there's very distinct tracks in it.
Which is thematic for the genre, because even like famous old vaporwave albums, people kind of had to figure out tracks after the fact. Like we talked about.
Oh yeah, they're cassettes.
We talked about Echo Jams. It's treated like a cassette, so people are like, well, I guess after about 4 minutes, it's more about this sample than this sample. So that's a new song. That's now track B2. So that's sort of what we had to do, is just listen to a bunch and be like, oh, now they're doing this weird segue into this, and now there's like weird chanting going on. So this is kind of like a new part or new idea. I found it surprisingly engaging. Or like a long, unbroken. It's like
there's a pretty heavy ambient bass drum behind a lot of it. Yeah.
It's like if Girl Talk made a horror album.
Oh,
yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. I like that. It's sort of a tour through a bunch of these related genres because, it kind of starts out, for me, it almost has this like acid / psychedelic rock kind of beginning with a slow guitar and building the drums.
Yeah. It's very Mandy soundtrack at points. Yeah.
I was just expecting Jim Morrison to start wailing in the distance, like in the first couple minutes of that, but I listened to a lot of The Doors when I was younger, so
Nice.
Yeah, very much getting that kind of vibe. But as you go through the album, it goes into things like space ambient. There's sort of a drone focus, and it goes back and forth.
And there's the backward samples. And the drone, they add speaker pops. That's how I was determining tracks. Like,
Okay.
is it just like drones across the blasted hellscape of Lake Hali? Or did someone record that and bring it back in on like a wax cylinder? Like, yeah, that was how I was separating the drones. But yeah.
Do you listen to a lot of dark ambient or cryo chamber stuff on your own?
It depends on if I'm writing something that needs it.
Oh, okay.
Like, oddly enough, I'll listen to more like that kind of stuff when I write like sci-fi horror than I do when I write horror, just because like if it's like rural blasted hellscape horror, I need something more upbeat to keep my fingers going.
Okay.
Like but yeah, I drove to work today, not today, but like the last 2 weeks listening to this, and it was like shitty wintry mix every single morning at 5 a.m. and driving across a blasted Missouri hellscape while listening to this, I felt like I was hunting like a daughter I didn't know I had, but I'd learned over some blood scrawled note that I found inside the plaster of my walls.
It's like you just found out that the original negative of Cats 2019 is like buried out under a tree in the Ozarks, and you have to go out and find it.
Yeah, your name's in the credits. You didn't even know that.
Yeah, exactly.
It's very shining Overlook Hotel ending, That's one of the great strengths of this album is like it really does take you on this journey across, because a lot of dark ambient albums, especially Cryo Chamber, they do a really good job of theming every album, and it's and a lot of it is very focused on like if the album's going to be about sort of a medieval theme, you get the orchestral sort of arrangements, and you get that kind of sound and deep drums or something like that. But you would not get like John Carpenter synth waves in that.
No,
but like in this one, you do get that. You get the reverse sounds. You get weird vocals in the distance. I thought I heard a harp at one point. I'm not sure.
I think so. There's some
in track 2,
like higher frequency, like plucky string type stuff of some kind.
It does differ, but like for me, the hardest differentiation was like, oh, they found the treble clef and it's gone. We're back. But like the through line for me on this one seemed to be like vast and varying reverb and echo spaces. It sort of felt like to me, it felt like the music was you're walking across some place that's very flat, but the surroundings are mountainous and shifting.
Yeah.
And difficult to determine the distance from. Because, sometimes you get harps, but it's like a couple football fields away over there. It just, to me, it just felt like you were going through this vast mountainous valley or plain or lake depression or whatever. Yeah. That's where I got the main theme of Hastur from. Felt like I was walking towards Carcosa and never quite got there.
Yeah.
That's a really good observation. I got something slightly different, but I think also the main impression I get, there are these variances where it's sort of like, I guess for our first sample that we'll play is sort of about 16 minutes in, where up until this point it's been, I wouldn't say calm, but like fairly consistent and sort of, and then
is this when the strings hit?
This is when the strings hit.
Yeah, normally I can sleep to dark ambient, and I tried that on this one until that motherfucker kicked in.
Yeah, no,
and then I was like, nope, not sleeping to this one.
Yeah.
They turned that upside down by dropping the treble. I don't know. It's like,
All right, so here they are. Yeah, the album really grabbed my attention as well. I wasn't trying to sleep, but it was like, holy shit. I think that's a common criticism with ambient in general, is that it's just music to put you to sleep. It's just kind of, white noise, but a little different. And this is definitely not. There is a lot of thought and purpose into this arrangement. There are also parts of this album that are very almost pleasant and almost like a space ambient, or kind of like almost, Brian Eno-ish in places a little bit. So for me, it's like going through the city of Carcosa and seeing both the horrors and the wonders of it, the terrible beauty of this ancient city. So
definitely.
This album also comes with like a 10-page little digi booklet, which is like a little bit of, weird fiction accompanied with really beautiful art. They mention a lot about the science of the people of Carcosa and that kind of thing. So it's sort of a science fantasy, it's not just...
Is that canon?
Not...
I'm just wondering.
Yeah, I don't know which canon you're referring to, but...
But yeah, the strings, it's enough to lull you into like a false sense of security when something else is added in. Like I listened to it a bunch of times. On the last day I drove to work, I heard this big crash while I was listening to it. I'm like, I gotta go back. I don't remember listening to that. And then I look in the rearview mirror. It's like, no, there was just a car crash behind me. But I'd just assumed, metal scraping against each other. That's going to be in there, right? So you can never. It's also even if you listen to it a whole time, it's hard for me to remember what part is coming up next, just because it's without. And I think that's intentional. It could be just because I don't know enough about this stuff that you guys do, but the themes seem fluid. Liminal almost between tracks. Yeah. Couldn't tell you who did what under any circumstances.
I mean, I'm not familiar with all of these 20 artists either. So I do recognize some names and I've listened to some of them, but yeah, I could take guesses, but it would be guesses.
Exactly.
And the thing is they make a point on the page to say this is not a compilation. This is a collaboration. So they work together. So you imagine that each of the artists, at least I'm doing this part and you're doing this part, but let's work on the transition, the crossfade between it, or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, it's interesting because there are points in the album that have, we obviously just talked about one, really harsh transitions, but even later in the first, we really just talked about the first track so far, just to be clear. All of these examples are just in that first hour of the two.
Yeah.
But there are moments where it'll settle into this real dreamy, peaceful for 5 or 7 minutes, and then just have this weird cut to Lynchian static.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then that'll kind of all these sounds and static, and then that'll kind of bleed its way out into kind of the next idea. And there's this establishment of being pulled through this environment because it's almost so long that I'm curious, because if you listen to it every day on the way to work for 2 weeks, then you've probably listened to it the most of the three of us.
I have an hour drive each way, so I usually do track 1 on the way in, track 2 on the way out. Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not speaking for
I've listened to it maybe 10 times. I mean, yeah.
Yeah. Maybe it's just because I haven't listened to it 10 times, more that 5 to 6 range, but it's so long that your brain can't really kind of remember all the pieces.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Yeah.
I did notice that there is a difference between casual listening, and it's rewarding both as a casual listen, just have it on, and then as an active listen. One time I did listen to it with headphones in the dark just to focus on the music.
Huge mistake.
Noise canceling off. Please remind me that the outworld world exists.
Yeah.
Because there are parts of it that I've listened to it 6 times already or whatever, and what? I don't remember this at all, and yet it's still there.
It's too much to store.
Yeah.
And maybe you just don't want to.
Yeah,
And I think that's almost as much as how it's constructed with track 1, track 2, as it is with the music itself.
Yeah, it's defying you to try and remember this shit. It is intentionally dreamlike. I mean, track 2 is even more dreamlike, I think. They started doing picked up a lot of running water sounds in track 2 that started getting to be...
I wonder if you could figure out some of track 2 stuff, what the contributing artist is, just by if there's anybody on the list that's real into field samples.
Oh, yeah.
Because track 2 has way more.
There's some harder cuts in track 2 as well than track 1. That's the one I want to talk about. But
oh, yeah?
Yeah. Just because I had a fever dream, so it's different.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. We drank too much last night.
We did.
I just want everyone to know that.
It was good.
So I needed to sweat the toxins out, and I needed to prepare for listening. So I stole one of Sarah's bath bombs, lit some candles, had myself a spa day. So I was going for a nice soak, a schwitz. I was very warm in my bathroom in a very warm shower, and I fell asleep while the water turned orange. And I'm like, okay. No. And I'm like, okay, thematically, what can I imagine going on here? So I'm like, all right, I'm washing the blood of my victims off me. I'm like, no, that's too much. It fits, but it's too much. And I'm like, I'm just chilling in Lake Hali. I'll just imagine like it's not a very deep lake. I'm just taking a soak in the orange waters of Lake Hali. Fall asleep, had the weirdest dream of my life, and then I went back to what was happening when it happened, and it made sense once I got to that part of the song. So it's 23 minutes into track 2. That's the segment I want to listen to. So can we do that one with the clip?
Yes,
we totally can.
So anyway, I was asleep, dreaming I was asleep while taking a soak in Lake Hali. So when the acid rock intro kicks in, I imagine the Kings in yellows walking across the top of the lake. He comes up to me and he says, "How are you enjoying the waters of Lake Hali?" And I'm like, "It's pretty great. It's warm. It's nice." And he said, "There's a mixer when the fourth sun goes down." No cover. And I said, "No cover?" And he said, "Yeah, no cover." And then he gave me a piece of shale with a sigil inscribed in it. And he said, "That's a drink coupon. Try the pina coladas." And then he drifted away. And then I woke up in weird orange water.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
So if we go to dinner tonight and they have pina coladas, I have to get one.
Of course.
Destined.
Hastur told me to.
Basically.
I really like the extra celestial bodies. It's very endless. It's like when the third moon is full, your player will be forever set on repeat one track.
Yes, exactly. So I woke up, I'm like, something different happened other than the ambient drone, and it was the weird, I found the reverb pedal on my guitar part, and so the King has drink tickets.
That was kind of a pleasant dream.
It wasn't scary.
Yeah.
I think if you listened to it 2 weeks, you'd be like, Carcosa ain't so bad.
It's fine. You can get used to it.
Yeah, I mean, you can talk about how horror becomes comforting if you get enough familiarity with it.
Rent's cheap there.
Yeah. You know what's going to happen, you know?
Can you put Carcosa in like a living calculator, like a cost of living calculator? It's practically zero.
Yeah, basically. Track 2 also sort of builds up with more of the synths section, and that's where the reverse audio comes in. And
that we talked about earlier.
Yeah. I don't know if I like track 2 more than 1, but
I appreciate that it is different.
Yeah, that's true.
So different. I think I probably like track 1 more between the two, but like, there's the different types of synth patches that come into. There's the field recordings mentioned earlier. Track 2 has more like interesting vocal stuff going on. That you don't really get in the first one.
I'd pick up like a bit of that grudge, kind of like at a very low level.
Yep,
that was a good touch.
Weird slurping sounds.
So I just appreciate being able to keep up the variety for 2 hours.
Yeah, that's true. One of the things while trying to think about like what to say with this album, I realized it does get the theme of cosmic horror down very well. So Caleb, you had the idea of the landscape with the mountainous things around. I had the wonders and horrors of Carcosa. Like, did it invoke anything for you, Burke?
I guess I don't have a specific picture of like a location in my head. I'm generally just sort of in voids, like when I like drone and ambient and stuff like that. Unless there's like a place explicitly themed, like Miles to Midnight we talked about a few episodes ago, and there's the idea of like being pulled through this haunted hotel.
Oh yeah.
But in this one, there's just this feeling of I think the horror aspect for me is just being pulled because you don't know where you're going. So you're not just moving through a space, but I feel like you're being dragged through it by what's happening.
Yeah.
Because you're not you don't feel in control of like what's going to happen next because you have no like track expectations. Like we said, you don't quite remember where you are in this big hour and 10-minute track. And you're like, oh, fuck, are we back to the static part? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fine.
Yeah, there's a cyclical element to it because, like, like the guitar, the sort of acid rock kind of elements come back several times. And you're like, oh, is it beginning? Is it ending as it begins? No. Oh, it keeps going on, you know? Did it loop around? For me, also, it's very Lovecraftian. It's very cosmic horror because we've all listened to this multiple times. Also, we're trying to describe the indescribable in some ways.
Yeah.
You know, it's like trying to describe the Dunwich Horror or something like that. It is.
Could be our shortest episode ever. Just be like, there are no words in English to describe these sounds.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good thing we're not writers. Fucking Lovecraft. God,
I hate writers.
No words to describe.
Yeah.
Thankfully, it's not my job to describe things in words.
I mean,
Otherwise,
there's no
the story would be
lyrics. How
stupid.
dare they?
I think the part that was most cosmic horror for me is that, like, I appreciate, I don't want to say like restraint for a 2-track, 2.5 hour long album.
Whatever, man.
But like restraint. Yeah, it was interesting in that there were the, horror violins and like some stuff that was objectively out there to be creepy, but it wasn't just like haunted house. Here it is all the time. Like there are like serious segments of it that are like alluring and beautiful and they want, like, they're pleasant to listen to. Then there'll be like a static speaker pop and like someone screams in the background, but then you're back to like taking your walk around the lake. Like, so yeah, that was the cosmic horror part I got. It was very alluring at points. Like I wanted to hear more or see more. Yeah.
The mermaids, the siren pulling you into madness.
Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, after this album, I do want to go back and listen to all the previous Cthulhu mythos because I've listened to a few of them. I know I've listened to Cthulhu, but I want to see like how they treat the other ones now.
Yeah.
Because
I was thinking that the one real success of this album is that it makes me want to revisit the other ones because I've kind of known they existed. I think we probably talked about the Cthulhu one when it came out, maybe.
Well, Cthulhu came out like years ago.
You've mentioned these to me before.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's a yearly compilation. So
exactly.
Yeah. So
is the Athakwa one just like a 4-hour sample of like wind from an Arctic weather station or something?
Yeah, you would imagine it'll be a little more varied.
Okay, so it doesn't matter which specific one, but just it makes me want to go back and listen to them because I don't know, it just seemed like so daunting to get into, and I never had the motivation of having to talk about it with friends.
Oh yeah.
To listen to it. Now I'm a little getting more into it. I think you were way more into dark ambient than I am.
Yeah.
You're pulling me in.
Yep.
Dragging me in.
Dragging you all into the abyss. I mean, are you going to explore more Cryo Chamber releases on your own?
I mean, I think it depends on what I'm writing. Probably not during the summertime. Even though I have a pina colada drink ticket from the King in Yellow, the idea of listening to this like while birds are chirping, the sun shining outside, just seems sort of inherently ridiculous. But yeah, I mean, I think it depends on the mood I'm in and what's going on.
Fair enough.
You could have headphones on so you can't hear the birds and just think about how the sun is screaming.
Yeah, but then I feel like the emo kid, like I'm really trying to advertise something to the world outside.
Oh, yeah.
Like, no, I'm dark in here. It's like Penn Jillette has this essay about this summer where he was just a complete asshole using his magician skills to break into houses and fuel his drug habit. And he said he would like mow his lawn and spend all day outside while listening to Lou Reed's Metal Machine music, just on like giant speakers, just to piss off the neighbors. And that feels like, hey, it's August, time for Carcosa and Hastur. It feels very like, look at me.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah,
these are almost winter releases.
Yeah.
A reason, I'm sure.
That's true. That's a good point.
Well, that's a very northern hemisphere.
Yeah. It's out. Yeah, that is true. There are other dark ambient record labels out there, so we'll have to explore those in the future.
Yes,
but
there are other ones, I promise.
Yeah, Cryo Chamber does have a very high quality. I have yet to be disappointed by one of their, especially this one. Yeah, it's not just a compilation. It's clearly they all work together on this. A lot of interesting artists. God's Body Disconnect and Flowers for Body Snatchers was on this one. So And obviously Atrium Carceri, who is the guy who runs the record label, who were all on Miles to Midnight or on Solaris. Like there were parts of this that actually reminded me a bit of Solaris.
That's probably them.
Yeah.
I think they're real into those electric industrial vibrating energy of a
very
power
sci-fi
line.
Yeah. With the music.
I think that's why I say Lynch again, because I said Lynch during their Solaris album, because like Eraserhead soundtrack is just full of that like heavy vibration, like unsettling humming.
Yeah.
I feel like the train's going to hit me, but why won't it get here? Like,
I mean, there's other director influences on there. So going back to track 1, I think the sample I want to share with people is kind of like 50-ish, 51 minutes into track 1. There's like very Carpenter-y.
Oh, yeah.
Like kind of synth stuff going on. So that's what this sounds like. Yeah, so that just really feels like, I mean, I love a lot of Carpenter's stuff. Even if he didn't write it, I still feel like a lot of like The Thing still has a really impactful
Without
style.
Carpenter, I mean, we wouldn't have synthwave would not exist. Genre.
if Lost Themes 3 comes out, y'all better have me back on.
Oh yeah,
totally.
I want to talk about some John Carpenter music.
Oh yeah, that would be good.
I will rock that in the middle of summer.
Sure.
Going to the beach. Wow, 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 wow.
I played the first volume while Matt and I were driving through the Outback at night. That was a good choice, or the worst choice.
The kangaroos have knives.
I mean, we saw dead kangaroos on the side of the highway because they've been hit by cars. Yeah, well, it's just very Carpenter movie. You know,
I'm sad, Ross.
we're just in the middle of the Outback at night. It's
now I'm sad. It's okay.
Anyways, if you like Dark Ambient at all, like this is pretty much a must listen to. It's great. Again, like what is really fascinating is it is rewarding as the casual and like active listening. Like you can get through this album multiple times. Like what I'm doing right now is like starting the album at different parts, just so I'm like more focused at the beginning. So like I'll start 40 minutes in on track 2 or something like that, then loop back 1 to track 1.
Yeah, it does sort of anesthetize you to itself.
Yeah.
Until those fucking violins kick in. Then you wake up, but you quickly go back.
Yeah.
Into a sort of a stupor.
Yeah. It's great.
I could see if you're the type of people, I don't think any of us are, but if you're the type of people who like, if you're running, say, tabletop games and you like to put music in the background, I wouldn't do this one because you would have to have your game kind of timed to the changes, but you could definitely take supercuts out of this and have that work into.
Yeah, that's true.
Like it's really good for that. That just fills that space. I mean, we had it on Ross's TV before when we were waiting for you to come over. Like we were just listening to it on the in the background while we were fiddling with audio gear.
Yeah, I mean, if you were playing board games or something like that, this would be good for Arkham Horror where it's not as timing necessary.
Until the strings mess up my mental math and I have to start over.
There's no mental math in Arkham Horror.
That's true. That's a really good point.
Anyway, so if you like this album, we'll have links in the show notes so you can buy the album. It's also available or you can listen to it on YouTube right now, or stream it for free on Bandcamp. But yeah, support the artists if you like the album.
Always, yeah.
The digital release is worth getting. Of course, I think they have a vinyl version of this too. If you're one of those people who has, a really good sound system, yeah.
Well, I mean,
if
you have someone strapped in your basement, you want them to get the best quality.
Oh sure, yeah.
And that record scratch is really going to set the scene of whatever you're going to do to them.
Oh yeah.
It puts the needle on the vinyl.
You want to do a little turntablism with this?
Yeah, scratching it.
Yeah. Thanks for listening to this episode. I am at Ross Payton on Twitter.
I'm at Birkinson.
I am at Hebanon G. Cal.
And do you have anything you want to plug recently?
Go to Lake Hali. Free drink tickets.
Free drink tickets, yeah.
Get them pina coladas.
And if you don't listen to Mix 6, it's a great podcast where Caleb and I and Spencer and occasionally Burke talk about, well, beer reviews and life, the meaning of the universe, and the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Yeah. Important shit.
Yeah. But our next episode, we're going to do a topic episode about hauntology.
That's right.
Where we're going to the theory that kind of permeates vaporwave and a lot of other haunted music that we talk about. Also is really relevant to, well, just everything in pop culture these days.
Yeah.
Thank you all for listening. Please rate and review us on iTunes, your podcasting app of choice. And keep on listening.
Bye.
Thank you.